welcome back to our channel. My name is Terrell.
And my name is Brendan.
And we're on BNT Reacts.
And today we are checking out LGBTQ plus and homophobia in the K-pop industry, a video essay. And this is by Katarina Rose.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we fucking up to that.
Definitely interested to check this out.
Yeah, we are.
We are straight men, so we are allies. Amen. So
I don't know what's going on.
We are ready to just see what our allies go through. Our friends in the LGBTQIA plus community. In the K-pop industry. We're really interested. Definitely interested.
Sure, let's get right into
the video.
Also, we're gonna be this video is pretty long, so we're gonna be cutting the video in half. So we're gonna be reacting to maybe about 22 minutes of it today, and then we're gonna react to the next little bit sometime
another
this
day.
month. Let's go now. I'm not straight, by the way, he is.
Welcome back to Hell, and welcome to the highly anticipated video essay on LGBTQ plus and homophobia in the K-pop industry. Many of you have been asking for this specific video ever since I mentioned potentially making one in my dating in the K-pop industry video. It's been a few months waiting, but I finally present you with this essay. I would like to say that I originally would have liked to have had this video out in June for Pride Month, but because of personal reasons, I fell behind on my upload schedule. Towards the end of June, I could have rushed this video to get it out in time, but I didn't want to. It's more important to me that I create a video that treats the topic with as much respect and time as possible. I didn't want to rush research for this just to say I got an LGBTQ plus video out in June. That comes across as performative activism to me rather than genuine care for the community. I would rather take the extra time and really get this important topic right.
Also just like any video,
Pride Month is over in June. Pride Month is every month on my channel. Welcome to the year-long all year, every year. Before I jump into the disclaimers and then into the actual video, I want to take this time to thank all of my viewers, whether they are subscribed or this is their first time here. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I welcome you to my channel wholeheartedly, and you always have my love and support. Much love to you all, and let's get into it.
Wow, you really playing this straight roll up.
Number one. Know that this is a tough topic to listen to at times when discussing the hatred and hardships that LGBTQ people have had to face in the past and currently even today. If you think that some of the descriptions of this hatred might hurt you, then please, I encourage you to take care of yourself first and not watch this video or come back at a later time.
I'm loving the disclaimers and like everything. I'm loving it.
This is my verbal trigger warning for some of the things that we will be discussing. Number two, know that this is a huge subject, and I mean huge. I can't even begin to cover every single thing about the LGBTQ plus community and specifically its relationship with K-pop, but I covered some of the most important parts. Feel free to add some of your own opinions and research below in the comments, as you guys know that I do love reading those. It's my favorite part of making videos, as long as it's done respectfully to all the parties involved. Number three, I'll be talking about some real life examples later in the video of artists who have expressed an anti-gay sentiment. I tried my best to see if they still feel that way now and if they ever apologized, but I might have easily missed something or someone. I don't mean to hate anyone or to drag up old drama that might have been addressed. I just merely talked about examples that had importance that I wanted to discuss. And finally, number four, please, as always, be nice and respectful in the comments to me and everyone else. I absolutely will not tolerate.
I'm getting mesmerized by the cuts they're making in these. I'm sorry.
Plus community. I will just block you and delete the comment. You
yes,
can
be
have
respectful.
Opinions, even those that differ from mine. But if hatred is your opinion, then that's not an opinion. You're just rude, and you should reflect on that. This channel is a safe place for all members of the community, and we are going to keep it that way. Thank you in advance. Number five, also, don't sue me. Companies, I'm poor. Please, I can't even afford your
Don't sue us.
Literally, no.
With that, we've covered all the disclaimers that I need to, so let's get into the video, and as always, I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, we get right into it, y'all.
Now, as always, I cannot cover the entire history of LGBTQ plus rights. I can't even begin to scratch the surface of that. So instead, we're going to focus on two big moments that will help define our later conversations: Stonewall and some of the Supreme Court of America's rulings. I'll be focusing on America's history before diving into South Korea's, because I want to compare old Hollywood to the modern day K-pop industry, as they have so many similarities that I want to make a separate video.
They do, actually. I never thought about it.
In every state in America, with the exception of Illinois, homosexuality was was illegal. As History.com points out, even so much as having a gay employee or serving a gay customer would have a bar or restaurant shut down. Most gay bars that were allowed to operate did so illegally under the protection of the mafia, who paid officials and the law to look the other way. But don't get confused, the mafia didn't do this out of support for gay people, but merely because they saw money to be made off of them, an untapped revenue source, if you will, something that we can use to draw a parallel to the K-pop industry with later. The mafia would even threaten to out wealthy gay patrons if they stepped out of line. On June 24th, 1969, police raided the Stonewall bar and arrested many employees and took alcohol. They did this stating their reason was that the bar operated without a proper liquor license. On the night and early morning of June 27th through June 28th of 1969, police raided the bar yet again, hoping to fully shut it down. Undercover police officers entered the bar specifically targeting drag queens or cross-dressers, as it was a crime of the time to dress as the opposite gender. More police arrived and the riots soon began as police began to beat up a woman who was dressing as a man for complaining that the handcuffs were too tight. Many people of color were said to have made a significant impact on the riots as well, being some of the first to spring into action. I encourage you to look into and watch documentaries about Stonewall because I can't possibly cover it all here, but in the next few days, members of the LGBTQ community continued to gather at Stonewall and protest where they faced serious backlash from the police. But as we all know, Stonewall would go on to become a turning point in history and become the reason that Pride Month is in June. Now, to talk about some of the Supreme Court rulings would also take forever, but they had a seriously bad history. They denied gay magazines or media to be published, labeling it as obscene and not protected under the First Amendment. They denied gay marriage time and time again, saying that they had no right to get married. They even upheld sodomy laws that said that two consenting adults in the privacy of their own home could not consent to, and excuse my language here, I know we normally don't get X-rated, children, cover your ears, but they could not consent to oral or anal sex and could face charges if discovered. While the courts did have a few decent rulings in the late 90s to early 2000s about protecting gay people in the workplace, they did also rule that organizations such as the Boy Scouts, etc., could purposely exclude gay members as it went against their message. But finally, in 2015, the Supreme Court ruled that all gay marriages in all 50 states of America were legal and to be recognized. I bring all of this up just to mention how recently all of this has happened and just how long it took the US to even recognize the rights of the LGBTQ plus community. Many people act as if it's been around for a long time or feels like it has, but 2015 was not that long ago. And think about how long these people fought for that right. This will play an importance when I discuss Korea's history with gay rights and just how far they have to go and what this means for the K-pop industry specifically. But for now, I want to look at something I find pretty interesting.
Okay, Hollywood media.
Hollywood has always been an interesting place to me. The industry, or what I will call the Hollywood machine, is so complex with so many secrets and dark past, it would be impossible to explore it all here and now. I've always thought that old Hollywood, particularly during the 1920s to 1950s, bears a striking resemblance to modern-day K-pop industries. Most actors started at a very young age, and many of them, including very famous ones such as Judy Garland, the iconic Dorothy in Wizard of Oz, were heavily mistreated and drugged as children. They were expected to maintain a certain weight, work so many hours, and maintain a picture-perfect record with no scandals. And the actors were signed under different agencies or big film companies. Now, that's all very interesting for a different video, but what does any of that have to do with the LGBTQ plus community or K-pop? Well, something interesting and particularly depressing that I only recently found out during my research was that these big Hollywood movie companies were famous for marrying off actors or actresses that they thought or knew were gay, lesbian, or bisexual. Hollywood of the 1920s and 30s was a place very similar to the K-pop industry, where queerness was appreciated and very popular on the stage, but off stage in the personal lives, these actors and actresses were supposed to be completely heterosexual. These marriages were arranged and functioned as a part of what History.com calls moral clauses. Moral clauses were implemented by these movie studio companies where they were allowed to stop paying their actors if they forfeit the respect of the public. This pretty much meant that actors and actresses could not step out of line because anything they did, from minor criminal offenses even down to something as simple as having a dating scandal that shocked fans enough and caused enough of a mess, would lead to them effectively ending their careers. These clauses do still exist in some capacities even today. And my final thing I'd like to say about Hollywood has to do with the 2021 current Hollywood. It's been 100 years since 1920, and while acceptance in Hollywood media is 100 times more positive than it was in the past, it is still something that is either heavily exploited for over-sexualization of the queer characters, or it's something that is promised as a selling point to audiences to merely seem more more inclusive. There's still a serious lack of representation in Hollywood media, especially for transgendered people, non-binary, asexuals, etc. And especially lesbians who have had a hard time to not be sexualized by Hollywood. I make this point to lead us into discussing Korea's history with LGBTQ plus people, and why I don't know how long it will take them to be 100% forward thinking when it comes to queer people. Now, much like with America, I can't sit here and explain the entire history of LGBTQ plus people in relation to Korea. It's simply not possible in the amount of time that I have, but I'll explain some important parts. It should not come as a surprise that South Korea is a heavily conservative country, but it often does to many fans of K-pop or K-dramas. I can't tell you how many times I've met a new fan of these things who over-romanticize the hell out of Korea. This normally stems from a stereotype of the country and the people alongside of it being a little bit ignorant. Now, don't misunderstand me here and think that I'm saying that Korea or the Korean people are bad. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, I don't think any country should be romanticized, not even my own country, America. And we do have a real problem here of romanticizing our own history to make us look like but there are hardships in every country, and there are things that could be fixed everywhere. I think South Korea has a very beautiful culture, from the food to the art, music, scenery, and even the literature, which I've had to read a lot of for my degree. It's all very beautiful. I truly believe that the Korean Peninsula has one of the most interesting yet tragic histories of many countries. I highly recommend reading about Korean history, as it is very complex. The point I'm trying to make by saying that many people over-romanticize the country usually comes from younger fans, or hopefully at least, who believe that they are going to go to South Korea and it's going to be this beautiful, perfect K-drama, and everyone is going to be like idol levels of pretty, and everyone is going to act the way that they do in a K-drama. And that's not true at all. I mean, just think about any TV show that comes from where you live and tell me how accurately you think it portrays your actual
not accurate at all
living there, because American TV shows are not
Hairspray is based in Baltimore
at all. I mean, if you go to certain parts of Korea and you're anything but a stranger,
don't be singing on musicals on the street out here, because
you're probably gonna get hate crime.
You ain't gonna be like Tracy. You ain't gonna work out for you.
Comment made about you. And again, this isn't just Korea. It'll happen anywhere you go where you don't look or act like the normal idea of a citizen living there. My point is, South Korea is very conservative about a lot, more than you probably realize, and this shouldn't really be surprising. I mean, I'm shocked that Korea is even as progressive as it currently is. I think sometimes we forget just how little time has passed since South Korea started modernizing itself. Hell, there are probably grandparents living in Korea that remember the type of Korea you see in historical dramas, because in many places of Korea, it wasn't until after the Korean War that it was even modernized. It has happened over the span of just a few generations. I'm constantly blown away by this, and it's kind of inspiring to look at, but this can help explain the country's feelings towards LGBT issues. Many young Koreans actually seem to be more accepting and embracing of the LGBTQ lifestyle more than ever before. Much of this is probably because of the internet, but it is quite nice to see just how fast they can be at acceptance. But the older generations of Koreans are the exact opposite. Most of them are not open-minded to this idea and see it as a disgrace to the family. Many of them care more about how their family is seen from the outside than how this makes their children feel. And I speak from a perspective of coming from a family like this, with the exception of us being Korean, of course. We are not Korean. But my family is still very much like this, and the negative effects it can have on kids living in that situation are detrimental. Not to mention, in my experience, this way of thinking from an older generation is not something that can be easily changed, if even changed at all. Of course, I don't have to explain this to my LGBTQ viewers, because there are probably many of you who live in a similar situation to that. So I'll move on to talking about some laws and stances of the country of South Korea instead. South Korea has pretty much had no anti-discrimination laws when it comes to protecting LGBTQ plus people. Now, one of the worst laws that I want to talk about, some of you may have heard about. It is the Article 92-6 of the Military Penal Code. Now, I'm going to try and keep the explanation short for this in case you don't know about it, because even I didn't know about it either, but I highly recommend you look more into it because it is horrific on so many levels. All of you probably know that Korean men have to serve mandatory military service. It's a common topic in the K-pop community. During the enlistment process, men are evaluated for physical and mental health. This is pretty common procedure for most countries, but what makes South Korea stand out is that LGBTQ men serving in the military will be marked as having a mental handicap or personality disorder. According to the Wikipedia article of this law, they can also be institutionalized in a mental facility or be dishonorably discharged. Military personnel having reported experiencing harassment, violence, and forcible revealing of their sexual orientation and or gender identity. What's even worse is that homosexuality is criminalized, in which same-sex relations, regardless of consensuality, are labeled as sexual assault/harassment. harassment and considered punishable by a maximum of 2 years in prison. This doesn't need to be further explained. It's pretty straightforward, but I'll say it again for the people who didn't hear me. It's illegal, with the consequences of prison time, for 2 men in the military to have sex, and this includes non-penetrative sexual acts, even if both parties are consenting. Here's a recent real-life case that's been paragraphed by The Guardian, which I'll read to you now. According to an 8-page ruling seen by The Guardian in December 2020, a soldier entered another's tent over the course of 2 nights at a time where they were part of a group isolating due to COVID-19. By engaging in mutual oral sex, they molested one another, the ruling reads. The pair's lawyer said that the act was consensual and therefore they were innocent. The court disagreed. It interpreted that oral sex, according to the military code, bordered on rape. The defendant's conduct, it said, is considered contrary to good sexual morality and was seriously infringing on the maintenance of military discipline. So I don't really have to say much on that, because I think most of you probably are just as outraged at hearing about that
as I am.
These are 2 consenting adults, and the court has the audacity to compare it to rape, which is a horrific crime and entirely different than what's happening here. The soldiers can also be charged if they're off duty, by the way, just in case someone was going to come in my comment section and try and defend this by saying, well, they shouldn't have been doing this on duty. It's not responsible. Well, much like American law from decades ago that we talked about a little bit earlier, the people can be tried for doing this in the privacy of their own home if they're military personnel. I mean, even President Moon Jae-in, who is a former human rights lawyer, I might add, said that before he became president, he was against homosexuality and did not like it, and to my understanding has that stance still today. So now that we understand just a little bit about South Korea's stance on LGBTQ plus people, let's finally get into what you've all come here for, how this pertains to K-pop. I think the best way to start this is to mention the very noticeable fact that the K-pop community is heavily made up of people who are LGBTQ+.
Yes.
Like, go to any K-pop stand's Twitter bio and like 7 out of 10 times they will be LGBTQ+. And I personally love that. While the K-pop industry may not always be the most accepting, which we'll get into, I find that many fans are. I would go so far as to say that the K-pop community is probably one of the most accepting communities of other fans who are LGBTQ. It's always very heartwarming to see. I mean, I know for a fact many of you guys are LGBTQ+, because you've told me either through comments or DMs. So because there's a large part of the fan base that this directly affects, we will be talking about how harmful some of these actions of the industry can be and why it's wrong. I mean, it's pretty much the same principle that we discussed in our cultural appropriation video, which is that the industry seeks to profit off of this market while actively hate criming those same people. So let's start an in-depth look at what and how exactly the industry does this.
Skinship and fan service.
I think a good place to start when discussing marketing tactics is skinship and fan service.
Now,
it's no secret that skinship is more acceptable in Korea than it is in Western countries. Like, I don't know about where y'all live, but where I live, it's almost impossible to find 2 guys who are comfortable enough with their sexuality that they'll hold hands or even hug their other guy friends. And if they do, they have to make some big deal about, like, slapping them on the back after or fist bumping them to send the message of, like, hey, I'm not gay though, as if being gay is some kind of insult. Firstly, let me give a rough definition of skinship, although most of you probably know about it. It's the name for when idols are overly touchy with each other, like holding hands, hugging,
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
Any form of physical contact that expresses a fondness or caring for another person. Now, I'm not here to convince you that all skinship is fake and part of some marketing tactic, because I don't even believe that myself. I think skinship can be overplayed at times for the cameras, but I genuinely believe a lot of the times it can be genuine. I think most of the time these idols probably are just that close with each other and enjoy each other's company and seek some comfort from each other. But like I mentioned before, I also do think that there are times where companies or managers will tell 2 members to kind of lay it on a bit thicker for fan service for the fans. Now, what is fan service? Fan service is something expressly added or done for the enjoyment of the fans. It's known that by doing this thing, it will please a large part of the audience. So they do that, which is fan service. In many forms of media, it's usually more sexual in nature, but in K-pop, a lot of the times it's really not that sexual. In K-pop, it's more things like skinship or singing a specific jokey type of song or wearing cute versions of stage outfits, etc. Now, I don't even think that fan service is entirely bad in of itself. It's a fun way to give back to the fans, but I do think it can carry major problems with it, such as some fans really buying into that fan service so hard that they don't even realize that it is fan service. These things are done as a business model by companies, and I'm not saying idols don't enjoy doing these things or do them just for money, because even I don't believe that, but I do think that the company takes these things into account when it comes to the success and business of the group. It's a way to keep fans engaged with a group, so they'll continue standing the group and spending money on albums, light sticks, and concerts. And it's pretty much foolproof. I mean, all of us fall victim to this constantly. And like I said before, I don't think it's always bad. Most of the time, I can appreciate it for what it is, but it gets dangerous when it starts to border on queerbaiting.
Yep. Okay. Queerbaiting.
Now, what is queerbaiting? Well, queerbaiting is a marketing technique for fiction and entertainment in which creators hint at, but then do not actually depict same-sex romance or other LGBTQ plus representation. Now, some good examples of this would be Gaston's friends in the live-action Beauty and the Beast movie from a few years back. I remember Disney practically marketing that this man was going to be like one of the first on-screen gay Disney characters ever, and then he just wasn't. I mean,
Disney,
seen in
I'm not even going to say that, but they have a lot of history with
0.2
that.
seconds at the very end of the movie in the hopes that all the overly conservative parents didn't catch it, but still just enough so that Disney could cash in on the LGBT market. Queerbaiting by definition is typically reserved for fiction or entertainment, so many people will tell you that idols can't queerbait off screen, but I would argue differently. Of course idols can queerbait on screen. We see it all the time in music videos. I mean, when you see two members practically kissing or hugging with their shirts off, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. That's a very clear queerbaiting, and most people wouldn't argue otherwise. But I think K-pop is unique because a lot of what is presented to the audience in vlogs or variety shows is also a part of that fictional storyline or overly censored. So I would argue that K-pop is in of itself so fictional in so many ways that they can queerbait in a marketing way. Because let's compare the situations. Disney promised viewers a gay character by constantly teasing it, and then they didn't deliver on that promise. In K-pop companies, they will constantly have idols be overly touchy with each other in music videos, at concerts, or variety shows. You guys know those games that they have idols do where they pass a piece of paper from mouth to mouth, or the Pepero game where two idols chew that damn stick until they almost kiss. To me, that comes across as selling the idea of these two idols being in, or the potential to be in, a gay relationship. They monetize the hell out of that kind of content, but none of those idols are ever openly queer. So it is, in a way, queerbaiting to me. The idea of these two being gay is presented to the audience, and the audience likes that a lot, but it's never actually followed through with. They merely act gay to profit off of people, and it works more than we realize.
Shipping.
Now, I have to be careful what I say here because I know that shipping is very popular. It's a very popular thing, and there's probably a few of you who do this as well. I don't want to accidentally hurt any of your guys' feelings or seem like I'm attacking you because that's not my intention at all, but this is something that we have to talk about due to this topic. So if you think you're going to be sensitive to this topic, maybe just skip ahead a bit, although I will say that I do think this is pretty important. Now, I think if you ship members in a friendship way, then it's fine. Like, maybe there's a particular friendship you like in the group, and you like their dynamic, so you watch or make videos of their jokes and conversations, then that's fine. I have plenty of K-pop friendships that I think are really fun to watch, but it's when shipping turns romantic that I see a problem in it. This phenomenon of fans making proof videos that these two idols are actually dating and that they will defend that to the death is honestly just creepy to me. And for the record, I don't think the people who do this realize that what they're doing is weird, wrong, and damaging to others, but it is. And I'm here to explain why. Because many of you might just be saying, oh, it's just a simple ship. What's the harm in it? Well, do I have news for you? There are two topics I want to focus on when addressing why this is weird and wrong to do, and I hope maybe at least one person will see what I mean by this. Number one, we'll be talking about this more in detail at a later point in the video, so don't worry, I'll cover it a little bit more then, but let's be honest, there's a weird thing going on that isn't talked about a lot, and this doesn't just happen in K-pop. I see it literally everywhere in so many different fandoms. There's this thing where girls, typically young girls, but they can in theory be any age, who sexualize the hell out of gay men and gay male relationships. Now, don't worry, because later we'll also discuss how lesbian or women love women relationships are equally sexualized by men, but for shipping purposes, it's not always, but largely this collection of young girls who fetishize gay men, and it's creepy, guys. Y'all have got to stop that behavior. Like I said, we'll cover that more a little bit later, so let's move on to the second reason why romantic shipping is a bad thing. Number two, it is in a way assuming or projecting someone's sexuality. Like, for starters, what if one of the members that you're shipping is actually gay? It's bordering on the edge of outing them without actually outing them. And as we've established, being LGBTQ plus in Korea is maybe not the safest thing. These videos or fan fictions may indirectly make the idol feel uncomfortable, because in Korea, they more than likely can't be open about their sexuality. So this thing could worry or stress them out. I have many friends in the LGBTQ plus community, and I've said before that where I live in America is not the most accepting place, especially of LGBTQ plus people. Many of my friends before they came out lived with very conservative or very overly religious families, and something that made them very scared was that someone was going to accidentally out them and have them kicked out of their house in response to that. Oftentimes, even jokes about them being in a relationship with other members of the same gender made them very uncomfortable and filled with anxiety, especially if these jokes were made in front of their family members. So it's a similar thing here, but on a much larger scale. It's not just a family that an idol would have to worry about, but their entire country. And while they would receive massive amounts of support from many fans, the people closest to them might not feel that way, and that's heartbreaking. Or what if the members being shipped aren't gay, and it makes them uncomfortable to show affection with their other members anymore? Now, like I said, I want to make a clear distinction here and say that liking a certain duo as a cute friendship, or liking their dynamic, or even fan art, as long as it's not overly sexual or romantic, is fine in my opinion. You are simply appreciating a friendship, and that's cool. But overly obsessively believing that two people are dating or having sex is fucking weird. Even if it's true, which it could be, but it's none of our business. If I was famous and I was making a video with my friend, no matter their gender, and people were making theories that we were having sex, it would make me not want to hang out with that person anymore. And this doesn't just go for same genders, but for the opposite ones as well. If I was an idol, I wouldn't even want to look at the stage at award shows because someone might think we're dating, or I wouldn't even congratulate someone on winning something out of fear that brief eye contact is enough to get dispatch in my area. Now, I would also like to say that there are some ships where the idols have said that they are fine with it. For example, one of the most popular ships in K-pop is Woosan, which is a ship between Wooyoung and San of ATEEZ. Now, they might have retracted this statement, and I just haven't heard about it, but I remember seeing them getting really excited and saying how cute it was that fans had put their names together into Woosan. I think when idols are more accepting, then making jokes or something is a bit more acceptable. But I still wouldn't ever make it sexual, because again, that just feels invasive to me. But what do I know? Now let's talk about something important before delving more into this topic of fetishization.
All right, y'all, so we're gonna stop it here at 25:15. When we pick up back the video, we'll have maybe, I want to say 20 minutes and 14 seconds left. 20 minutes, no, 24 minutes.
Seconds.
Yeah, 24 seconds. That's 20 minutes and 24 seconds left. What did you think about this so far, this part one, so far in this video?
I would agree a lot with what they were saying. I think that they brought up very valid points. Some things I didn't even know, like the I already forgot what it was, the touching thing. That thing I didn't even know. Yeah, and I also didn't even know that. I guess I did fall into this. I don't want to say trap. I didn't know that being LGBTQ was that touchy and that negative in South Korea. I don't know. It's very informative and very heartbreaking, because it is just I don't know, as someone who is gay, it's I want everybody, I think everybody, regardless, I mean, I don't have to be gay, but just regardless, I think everybody deserves to just be themselves without having to fear that they're going to be thrown in jail or lose everything. They're all their family, and even in their case, I would assume their life, their job, their something that they love to do. And I was also just thinking, especially at the end, that you literally just someone making a compilation about you and someone in your group could end your entire it's, I don't know, it's just crazy to me. I mean, I guess I know they probably don't mean harm from it, but it's just insane. And it does, I guess, show how touchy of a subject it still is in many parts of the world, that it's not safe at all to be openly LGBTQ. It's very sad. It's very sad, and I'm very interested to see the rest of it, because it was very interesting. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I love how informative it was. I just very much enjoyed the video. Listen, I'm not afraid to admit that I'm ignorant to a lot of things. Just because I just don't know a lot of things about South Korea. I'm ignorant the fact that I am an American, and I think a lot of people watching this video, they could agree with that. That's a lot of people are I didn't know these things, because unless you're actually going out and doing the research and applying yourself, you would not know, and I'm ignorant in that sense that I did not do that. So I will acknowledge that, and I fucking love how just real she was speaking, and wasn't speaking in a way to like down anyone for doing these things or judge anyone. It's just like, look, these are the facts, and these are some of the repercussions that can happen with these type of things. So hey, I love the fact that they dove into the history. I don't want to assume anyone's gender.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this person dove into the history of LGBTQ plus the community, not only in South Korea, but in America as well. And I never really realized the similarities in between like the K-pop industry versus the old Hollywood industry. And now that I'm looking at it, they are very parallel in a way in terms of how business goes and how things are handled. It's honestly crazy. I grew up in a very strict household as well, a very religious household. It wasn't easy as a child. I still have memories from both sides of my family. One side, a lot more religious than the other side, but still, I still had those things and kind of those battles that I had to go through as a child because of some of the viewpoints that some of my family members tried to instill in me, or viewpoints that they had themselves that I just was around at the time. I thank God that some of their viewpoints has changed around since me and other family members have come out. We have openly been ourselves. I'm glad that I have the ability to openly be myself all the time and be authentic in who I am. Truly, that's a blessing, really. As well as, like you said, I never really thought about like the compilations and everything either. I did notice a lot of comments usually when we do compilations. A lot of y'all be like, hey, like don't think too much into it. People make these compilations. It's not like that. And those have been very helpful throughout the way. Because we have done a lot of K-pop, especially like K-pop ship compilations in a way. And a lot of them we've done were friendships, but I'm sure there are some that we did where people were implying that they weren't friends. Yeah. But we never took it that way, or at least we try not to take it that way. We always just viewed it as them being really good friends. But even like something as simple as like touching your friend, and it's just fucking crazy.
We definitely watched like gay moments from certain.
Yeah, but I don't think those were done. I don't know. That's what I said. I'm sure there's probably been some where we didn't realize. But even those, in those situations, probably the intention of the person. We don't know the true intention of the person who made the compilation. However, we always, at the end of the day, we never took it as serious. That's what I was saying. We never was like, okay, this is something to ship. We were always kind of like, oh, we just think they're friends, like really close friends, or at least we tried to. And I can't remember every video we did because a lot of videos. But this video was dope, informative. Y'all know we love these K-pop videos that are very informative like this, because a lot of times you see reaction people on YouTube, including us at times. You see us, they do the nice videos and all the flashy performances and everything, but you don't really see people, or you maybe do, I don't know. But a lot of times there aren't a lot of videos being made out here about the real, true life things that are going on behind the scenes, and really just giving us the realness of everything, because everything that we see is all a portrayal. Just like if you're living in America now, everything in Hollywood is all a portrayal. You're not going to go. That's why a lot of people, they go to Hollywood, they have these big dreams. You think it's going to be this and that. You get there, it's not what you thought it was going to be, because everything is it's painted right in front of you for you to think it's like that, and everything is not as it seems. So my caution to everyone is just to be careful when you're watching things and when you're viewing things, especially the younger audience. Just be careful with those type of things, and just everything that she said. Just really, I hope y'all really paying attention, because I was trying to pay attention. But anyway, that's all for this reaction. If you like it, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you also hit that subscribe button, and go ahead and comment down below for more reactions like this. It can be anything, and we'll react to it.
And make sure to follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Follow both of our separate channels, and make sure to check out our Patreon.
Yes, Patreon. Check it out, y'all. And also, this month is Pride Month. Now, listen, y'all already know we celebrate Pride all month long over here on BNT Reacts. I mean,
as an ally.
Whatever. But we definitely want to just put an extra emphasis on Pride this month as well, and really just just watch a lot of like, just be very like, watch a lot of queer
Be
content. Yeah, this really like, we already do it all year long, but this month we just gonna do it. We gonna do it. We gonna put,
Even if everybody's gonna come for our necks for not watching a show.
I don't care about that. Anyway, that's all for this reaction, y'all. We're out. Bye.